Good morning. My name is Michael Lodato. I'm the Deputy Executive Director of the Town of Hempstead IDA. I'm observing that it is 9:30 a.m. on April 28th, 2025. We are here for the JAEP Properties LLC public hearing. Thank you everyone for attending. I will now read the notice of the public hearing into the record for the stenographer. Notice is hereby given that a public hearing pursuant to Title I of Article 18A of the New York State General Municipal Law will be held by the Town of Hempstead IDA on the 28th day of April 2025 at 9:30 a.m. local time. Town of Hempstead, Town Hall Courtroom, 350 Front Street, Hempstead, Town of Hempstead, New York, in connection with the following matters. JAEP Properties LLC, a limited liability company, organized and existing under the laws of the State of New York on behalf of itself and or the principles of JAEP Properties LLC and or an entity to be formed or to be formed on behalf of any of the foregoing, submitted its application for financial assistance to the Town of Hempstead IDA to enter into a transaction in which the agency will assist in the acquisition of an interest in an approximately 1.246 acre parcel of land located at 2283 Grand Avenue, Baldwin, Town of Hempstead, Nassau County, New York, the demolition of the existing approximately 11,000 square foot building on the land, the construction of a 4-story, approximately 70,863 square foot mixed-use facility consisting of approximately 54 market-rate residential rental units, consisting of approximately 12 one-bedroom apartments, 42 two-bedroom apartments with 5 units being subject to a preference for persons with disabilities, approximately 2,344 rentable square feet of ground floor commercial office space, parking for 78 vehicles on the land, and associated site improvements, and the acquisition of certain furniture, fixtures, equipment, and personal property necessary for the completion thereof, which the facility would then be subleased by the agency to the company and further subleased by the company to future tenants for use as a mixed-use multifamily housing and commercial office facility. The facility would be initially owned, operated, and or managed by the company. The agency contemplates that it would provide financial assistance to the company in the form of exemptions from mortgage, recording taxes in connection with the financing or any subsequent refinancing of the facility, exemptions from sales and use taxes, and abatements of real property taxes. The company has requested that the agency provide financial assistance to the company in the form of abatements of real property taxes for a term of up to 25 years. The proposed pilot benefit deviates from the agency's uniform tax exemption policy and guidelines as amended to date because the proposed pilot benefit would be for a term of up to 25 years instead of 10 years. Copies of the proposed pilot payment schedule are available on the agency's website at www.tohida.org. The agency is considering the proposed deviation from the policy due to the current nature of the property and because the company would not undertake the project and the project would not be economically viable without a pilot benefit for a term of up to 25 years. A representative of the agency will be at the above stated time and place here and accept oral comments from all persons with views in favor or opposed to either the project or the financial assistance requested by the company. Comments may also be submitted to the agency in writing or electronically prior to or during the hearing by emailing them to idamail@hempsteadny.gov. Minutes of the hearing will be transcribed and posted on the agency's website. Members of the public will have the opportunity to review the application for financial assistance filed by the company with the agency and an analysis of the costs and benefits of the proposed project, which can also be found on the agency's website, www.tohida.org. Members of the public have the opportunity to review the application. I'm sorry, I just said that. To the extent practicable, the hearing will be streamed on the agency's website in real time in accordance with Section 857 of the New York State General Municipal Law. A video recording of the hearing will be posted on the agency's website, all in accordance with Section 857 of the New York State GML. The agency anticipates that the members of the agency will consider a resolution to approve the project and the financial assistance requested by the company, including the proposed 25-year pilot benefit, at the agency's board meeting to be held on May 20th, 2025, 9 a.m. local time at Town Hall, Town of Hempstead, Town Hall Courtroom, 350 Front Street, Hempstead, New York, 11550. Thank you. If you would like to speak, please come up. Please come up to the mic, state your name, where you're from, and any information you have for the stenographer. Thank you.
My name is Karen Montalbano. I'm a Baldwin resident, involved in a number of different things within my community. I have a number of questions that I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to review that maybe you can answer for me. So what are the current taxes on the property?
This really isn't a back and forth. It's more just for the public to speak about the project and whether they're in favor of it. I can search through my information and get it for you, but I don't know if I'm going to get it right now.
Okay, so my questions are, you're going for 25 years, all right, and I want to be sure that the community does not lose any of its tax base in that beginning, okay, so that it would be the same. I want to be sure that it would go to a full rate after all those years, and I do question why 25 years when it's normally 10. I know there were difficulties with the project, getting it going, but I do want to know that it will go to a full tax rate for the community, because our taxes in Baldwin are very high, because we do not have the commercial tax rate that many communities do. And so we can't afford to lose any of our taxes.
Understood. It looks like currently, if my notes here are correct, let me just also pull this up on my phone to make sure I have the correct information for you, so give me a moment.
And then what would be the first, if you have that as well?
So,
And also I want to be sure that it doesn't start below the current tax rate.
okay, so the current taxes are $74,000. Once they demolish the building, the taxes are estimated to be $44,000. So the pilot schedule starts at that $44,000 because that's what they would receive once they demolish the building. And then they estimate the taxes to be $476,000 once constructed. They reach the let's just say $5,000 mark, because I don't have 476 here, in year 17. By the end of the pilot, the taxes end at $600,000, which is over the as-built figure, and then it would then go off the pilot and go back fully into taxes.
Okay. Thank you very much for answering those questions.
No problem.
Good morning. My name is Amy Heyman, and I am a fourth, if not fifth, generation Baldwin resident. I'm a retired nurse, and I'm currently a librarian. I oppose the project on many levels. I have lived in Baldwin my whole life. That funeral home meant a lot to the residents of Baldwin. There's a beautiful tree on the property that's been there probably for 75, 80 years. I see Baldwin slipping. We need businesses for our taxes. When I saw the request for a 25-year tax abatement, I thought to myself, whenever I improve my home, my taxes go up. How many more people are we going to fit into 3 square miles? It's a quality of life issue too. Now, I emailed Judy Griffin, Bruce Blakeman. I heard from Judy Griffin. I just am concerned about the quality of life and the taxes. I oppose it. I think that a 25-year tax abatement is not healthy for the community of Baldwin. There are other apartment projects going up, one by Wicks, one was just built on Merrick Road, one's being built on Sunrise Highway. Where does it stop? That's my question for the community. And I'm a taxpayer. I am seriously considering leaving Baldwin for the first time in my life. And like I said, I'm a 4th generation, if not 5th generation Baldwin resident. Where Stop and Shop is now in the harbor, my father's family had a farm. I'm afraid, are they going to be building in Baldwin Park next? The Bosse's property, I mean, where does it end? And my big concern is indeed the tax question. And I thank you for hosting this because it is important for the community. I know a lot of other residents who wanted to come today, but they can't because they're working. I know that there's other opportunities, but you know, I just felt like I had to speak for them too. So, thank you.
Thank you, I appreciate it. You can always send in a letter or an email and we will put it in the record as well. Oh, okay, thank you. If you haven't signed in yet, please just come up to the table over here and sign in. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Rhonda Eisenberg. I live on Harrison Avenue in Baldwin. In a recent Town of Hempstead newsletter, we saw how the town board stood up to anti-Semitism, and I was very grateful for that. As a Jew, I'm very grateful for that. We cannot tolerate hatred against any group of people. And you know, Baldwin is a unique community. It's a multicultural community with Christians, Jews, Muslims, black, white, Latino people living together. If you look at Harrison Avenue and Bixby Drive, Harrison Avenue between Sunrise Highway and where Bixby Drive ends and Bixby Drive, you will see a microcosm of just what I was talking about. We all live together. We keep our property beautiful. We love living in Baldwin. We are very upset about what's happening here with the overdevelopment with these buildings. I'm all for affordable housing, but you have 4 buildings going up within a half a square mile of one another. And we don't want to see it. So I believe that these projects are going to go ahead. At least think about reducing the footprint. Instead of building a 4-story building, maybe a 3-story building. Maybe the one on Sunrise Highway needs to be scaled back. And I agree with the previous speaker in that we really need commercial businesses, not people who aren't going to pay taxes. They're asking for this abatement for 25 years. Do you know I'm going to be 100 years old before they have to pay taxes? That's insane. And then our taxes go up. I know that at a town meeting, people from Oceanside came up and they were upset about the number of units that were going to be built behind the synagogue, and the board listened. I think they reduced it. In Belmore, they're building a building similar to, you know, the one by the railroad station, and they came and they wanted it reduced, and they got it reduced. Why isn't Baldwin being listened to? Why? This is a wonderful community and unique for the reasons that I said. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. I just wanted to reply slightly to one of the items you had mentioned. This had already been approved at the town level for the 4 stories. The IDA only grants tax benefits. We don't deal with the approvals that the applicant needs to build the building, et cetera.
Then I'm asking that you deny their request.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone else like to come up and be heard? And please, if you haven't, just sign in.
Yeah, hi, good morning. I'm Michelle Oder, 757 Bixby Drive in Baldwin, and I did sign in. So I've lived in Baldwin for 40 years, like, you know, some of my neighbors here, and truthfully, probably half my neighborhood would have loved to have been here today, but at 9:30 in the morning, you know, people have to go to work. I called my office and told them I'm coming in an hour and a half late because it's this important to me. I'm not against building. I'm not against
development. But I think that this town needs to take a real good look at what we're doing to Baldwin, just as my, the people ahead of me spoke to. So, this particular plan threatens, and all of the plans actually, they're looking to build within 800 square feet, over 365 apartments. The Breslin project is going to be 170 feet away from this 2283 Grand Avenue project. 4 stories, 54. Do you know that the width of that property is 122 feet? It is unthinkable that the town is even going forward with this. And I'm just going to piggyback off of what Rhonda had said. We had a lot of input in the town. In the very first meeting in October of 2023, we all stood up and we were in opposition to it. And Donald Clavin required Ron, do you have the paper there, the community meeting? Donald Clavin required that there be a community listening session to which about 70 people from our neighborhood showed up in opposition to this project. What we listened to, we were totally ignored. Okay, and I understand that this is about the pilot and this is about the IDA resolution, but you have to understand that, as my neighbor said, they listened in Belmore. They listened in Oceanside. Why doesn't anybody listen in Baldwin? Are we like the blighted town of Nassau County? So what we're asking for here today is not a 10-year tax abatement, but we're asking for a 25-year tax abatement. Now, when IDA programs began back in 1969, they had a purpose. They were to bring industrialization into towns that didn't have it. That's not the case in Nassau County. And really the only benefiters here are the developers. So you're asking for very large tax abatements that are going to take away from the schools. The schools are the big losers here. So take away from the school taxes, take away from the tax base, and who is that getting passed on to? The homeowners. As this woman said here, we're paying $20,000 a year to live in Baldwin, where we don't have decent restaurants, we don't have a movie theater, we've got more dollar stores, we've got more thrift stores, we've got more discount stores than any other town in Long Island, and yet we're going to give a tax abatement to a company that is going to, where's our tax abatement? When you build this in my neighborhood, you're going to come and lower my taxes, and my tax is going to go from $20,000 a year down to $3,000 because we're going to have this in our backyard. This is just completely unfair. You have to, and you have to learn from the neighboring communities. If you can listen to the other communities, you can listen to our communities. So in this statement there, they say that without this pilot, and if people don't know what pilot stands for, it's payment in lieu of taxes. So they make a payment to this IDA committee, and then they turn around and they don't pay school taxes and they don't pay other taxes. So, or maybe it's lowered. It's lowered. Okay, it's lowered. They don't pay none, but they pay a reduction, and it gets passed off to us. It's abated. It's abated. Yeah. And why is it not 10 years? Why is it 25 years?
So if they don't move forward with the project, you're going to get $44,000. The project by the 10th year generates $275,000. Is that representative of or reflective of your problem? No, but you can't say that there isn't. I understand, but that's why the pilot does generate money. We don't get the money from the pilot. It goes into the school, goes into the county, goes into the town, goes into special districts. All right, sorry I interrupted you.
Okay, so the other question is this project really a good use of IDA funds? It's going to create jobs during construction, but what about after construction? The majority of this building is residential. So on the ground floor where it's going to be mixed use, that's going to bring jobs? That's going to bring jobs to the community? It's really not going to bring jobs. This is all about a residential property. And IDA was never about residential. It was about bringing businesses to a community. This is not a business. This is a residential property. So I'm going to vote no for the pilot, and I think that everybody needs to take a good look at what pilot studies are doing. In fact, there's Senator Ryan and an assemblyman up in Albany that have I have it over here, I will submit it to you, You know, they have a bill out to stop all of this IDA abatement, especially when it comes to the school taxes. This particular project, there's not gonna be any jobs there. And I just wanna make one other comment. You know, Donald Clavin and Laura Ryder had sent out this, you know, Save Our Suburbs. They started this campaign. They started a change.org. They talk about all of the things that this project and the other projects in Baldwin are all about telling our governor not to keep building these buildings, these high-density projects that are in our backyards, in the backyards of single residence homes that are going to change the fabric of the entire community and are really going to ruin the lives of a lot of people. But you know what? In Belmore and Oceanside, they stood to their promise. What about Baldwin? So I'm going to sit here and say it over and over again, and I'm going to represent the people here. Why is Baldwin being left out in the cold? They can't build this project because if they don't get the pilot, fine, don't build the project. How about we go back to the table and we talk to the developer, we talk to the builder. Let's sit down and maybe make a plan that is amenable to the residents of Baldwin. Let's make this smaller, let's make it on the footprint. And the other thing is that there is a discrepancy between the site plan photos and what they are saying. In one photo, it shows that this building is going all the way back to Harrison Avenue. In another photo, it shows it's only in the footprint of the funeral home. In another photo, it's all over the place. And I brought up at this meeting in February of 2024 that the original developer was Gregory DeRosa, G2D. We all know that he's out of the picture because he has 22 lawsuits against him for alleged fraud, money laundering, etc. That this new owner stepped into the footprint of it, but the fundamental pieces of the project still remain the same. And whether or not they've been totally reviewed or not, I think that we need to maybe stop rushing toward approval, and let's take a step back and make sure that all the ducks are in order with the new developer using the old developer's plans. And as I said, if you go and look at those site plans, which I have looked at them, they're all over the place. There's different representations of where the building's going to be. And if you need my vote on the pilot today, it's a categorical no.
You all are going to respond, but unfortunately, the developer has made a case that they can't move forward with this project unless it's of this nature. We have received over the last 15 years, 4 or 5 proposals that economically were smaller but could not be viable, and the developers abandoned the project because we couldn't give them what they wanted. They were larger in some senses than this one. So this has been, as you know, from Baldwin's standpoint, this has been an eyesore for a long period of time, an area that
An eyesore? Ciceri Funeral Home is an eyesore?
well,
Ciceri Funeral Home was not an
no,
eyesore.
but I meant the whole general area there. You know, that whole section has been proposed between Merrick and Sunrise and Grand Avenue. That whole project has been before us many times. No, I didn't mean the funeral home was, but I meant the whole area was one
No,
under
the part of
development.
Baldwin that's the eyesore.
I'm
is
sorry?
between Sunrise, the part of Baldwin that's the eyesore is between Sunrise, Southern State Parkway and the high school. You don't have that so much between Sunrise Highway and Merrick Road. And Ciceri's Funeral Home was probably one of the nicest buildings. It looked like a beautiful colonial house
Wait.
with the most beautiful tree. And now I don't, listen, Michael Ciceri was my neighbor for 40 years. There was no problem with that funeral home. They could have done the correct thing, and they could have said, no, you can't go 4 stories, you can go 2 stories. Maybe you can go 4 stories in the footprint of the funeral home, but once you pass that footprint of that funeral home, you cannot go 4 stories behind residential properties. You cannot do that. And I fail to believe that you're going to tell me that there were smaller properties that couldn't go, smaller projects that couldn't go there? Oh, so let's put a 4-story building there.
Well, that's not our decision, as you know, from the testimony here. That was already decided. Our situation is obviously pilots, and the approval of construction has already been made. by the
Well,
town.
then no to the pilot. They can't build it without the pilot, then don't build it. You know what? I can't pay my taxes if I have to have my taxes go up because a major project has been giving a 25-year abatement in school taxes and property taxes. That's inevitably going to get passed on to us. How much more can Baldwin absorb? So then no. You can't build it without your 25-year pilot study? Then no. Then don't build your building.
Thank you.
It's as simple as that.
I just wanted to make a quick comment. We had talked previously about the pilots, as Mr. Perola had stated, the pilot payment comes to the IDA and then it gets dispersed to the taxing jurisdictions. So they're not paying nothing. They are paying a pilot payment in lieu of the taxes, and whatever the percentage that they give to the school or the town or whoever, the county, that percentage stays the same on the new amount. So the amounts don't change. The amounts change in terms of the whole number, but the percentage is always the same. I just wanted to make that clear.
Can I ask you a question? The members of the IDA, are you elected officials or are you assigned officials?
Well,
The
we're
members
staff,
of the IDA.
so we
Yeah, we're just staff.
we
So
serve at the board's
when I came here in
pleasure.
February and you had a quorum, the gentlemen that were all up there, are they elected or are they
They are-
assigned officials?
They are by law appointed by the town
They're
board,
appointed, okay.
but this is an independent agency. So
Okay.
once they are in place as members of, trustees, in essence, of the board, there are 7, they're really subject to no one.
Okay.
They're
Is
like
there a
a
member
school
of-
board or et cetera,
Okay, is there
et
a member
cetera.
of the school board on this committee, on this panel? Is there a member of the school board in the town of Hempstead, or particularly in the town of Baldwin?
Not at the present time,
Not
no.
at the present time.
We have had one. She resigned 2 years ago because she got a higher position.
In reference to this 2283 Grand Avenue project, did anybody, has the Baldwin School District weighed in on approving this? Did anybody reach out to the Baldwin School District and see how they feel about this?
So the Baldwin School District gets notice via certified mail about this public hearing. They haven't, unless they're here and I'm unaware, I haven't heard anything via email from them.
So perhaps maybe the person who received it doesn't quite maybe
It goes to
get
the
what's gonna
superintendent.
happen?
Goes to the superintendent.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
reach out to the
It
superintendent.
goes
and
to the
ask her,
superin-
Because the big losers in the IDA and in the pilot is the schools. They're the big losers. They're the big losers, and we all know that. It's the schools that lose the money, and then the town is gonna turn around and pass that on to every one of the homeowners that is living in the town of Baldwin. And as I said before, we are already paying astronomical taxes. So I'm gonna reach out to the superintendent of the school district to ask her why she wasn't here today to voice her opinion about the fact that the Baldwin School District is about to get, you know what. But there isn't
Thank-
a member of the school board on this panel. When the school board is, by pilots, they are the most
Isn't that the
impacted,
legislation to
and
put
they
some
are
in the
literally the ones that are buried. But you don't have a member of the school board on this panel.
There is a bill in Albany to mandate that a teacher or a member of a school district be on the IDA board. I think that would be a great decision. We've, as I said, had one who was terrific, and we're sorry to lose her, but she, as I said, got a higher position. So we have had members of the school board members of the school district who were employed by a school district on our board in the past.
So just for the record, in 2021 alone, New York State schools lost, ready for this? $1.8 billion because of IDA abatement and pilot. Okay, this is why $1.8 billion, I'll give you my reference. This is why Senator Ryan and Assemblyman Harry Bronson introduced legislation just in February, S.89 and 8.351, to prohibit IDAs from granting pilots that drain critical funding from public schools. I will send you, I have the article right here, I'll submit it to you. Okay, $1.8 billion lost to schools because of IDA abatements.
That's specious, but
How long is the open to be able to submit letters for this record?
weeks yet.
We'll go home and speak
The-
to our neighbors.
The file will remain open, so we will happily accept
So
any
talk to me about
letters,
the May,
2 weeks.
what's gonna happen next? There's a May 20th meeting?
Correct, that's our.
Okay, so what happens between now and then? If we campaign for people in Baldwin to send letters, you're still accepting?
Correct. They may not go into the public hearing minutes because at that point, they type them up and they submit them back to us, but they would go to our board members, yes.
Okay, and can you give me an email address so that we can share that with the public, where we can send
That's
our
the same.
comments?
That's the same email address in the public hearing notice. It's idamail@hempsteadny.gov.
Okay, so what's going to happen at the May 20th meeting?
If this project were to be approved, it would get an authorizing resolution. That's the final resolution, and then it would close, most likely shortly thereafter, with the IDA.
Okay. I mean, I think that everybody agrees with me here that the line in your resolution is that without this pilot and without this ID resolution, this developer cannot build this building. Then don't build. I can't pay my taxes if you have all these abatements that are going to raise my taxes. Then don't build your building if you can't afford it.
Yes, I'm looking at this, it's 12 one-bedrooms?
The only other thing I wanted to mention here was, I don't have it in front of me, I'd have to pull it from my file. We do ask for a study of how many school-aged children are projected to be in each of our properties when we do these pilot programs with them. Being that it's only 54 units, I don't think it's more than a handful. So I know people are sensitive, obviously, with the school district, but I don't think this is going to be a huge generator of school-aged children either. Thank you. Thank you. Would anyone else like to be heard? Please come up and state your name and where you're from. Sure, I'll take anything you provide. We're going to keep the public hearing open another, few more moments. If anyone else would like to speak, please come up and say your name for the stenographer. To the microphone so we can hear you.
Okay. My name is Karen Montalbano. I'm a Baldwin resident. How long is the comment period going to be open to?
Through the hearing on the 20th?
So the public, the minutes that the stenographer types up, those are usually available within a week or so. So that wouldn't go into that. We would either attach them to the notice, to the information, the minutes, Or we would also forward them to our board members prior to the board meeting.
So on May 20th, before the town board,
The IDA board,
before the IDA board? Okay,
Yes.
so it's May 20th again on the IDA board.
it would be in here.
Okay. And I made some notes, and I just want to be sure. You told me when the property was demoed, it would be $44,000. And then after the first year of construction, or how do the property taxes go forward?
Just give me
Yeah.
one moment to open it on my phone again. Give me 1 second. What was that? Yeah, so it stays 44,000 for 3 years. That's during the construction period. That's how,
So
that,
we're losing $30,000, we're losing $90,000
but,
for 3 years.
but then in the fourth year, it goes to 140,000. So it would then double what is the current tax.
Yeah, that's still kind of a,
Then it goes 165, 180, 200, 220, 240, 260, 275, 300, 340, 365, 400.
you're going a little faster than my fingers.
I'm sorry,
go.
I can send this to you later if you want to give me your email, or you can
Yes.
download the whole pilot on our website. We do have a
Okay.
copy on tohida.org.
online.
But it goes from that initial 140 up to 600,000 in the final year, with increments each year.
Okay, but in the meantime, over the first 3 years, we lose $90,000 in taxes.
That's our normal, that's not special to this project. That is taxes. We give a period of time for it to be built. It'll take 2.5, 3 years to build the project. So in that formidable period, the developer gets a break, but we always try to increase in the fourth year, as is here, the sum, so that it does make up for the fact that they've gotten a benefit for the first 3 years.
So how does that differ if you do a 10-year pilot versus a 25-year pilot?
It's the same. That 3-year period is our normal proposal or pilot that's established.
Okay, and then it would be incremental up to the 600 over the next 22 years?
Yes. You have to,
And-
I'm sorry, please, go ahead.
And why would a 25-year pilot be considered, considering the tax base, outside of the fact that they claim they can't build it without it?
I'm sorry?
Why would you use a 25-year pilot and consider it outside of the norm of 10 years? You're asking for a variance. They're asking for a variance in
Oh.
policy.
Yeah, I see. They made the economic argument that it was not a viable project at a lesser period of time, and we've done other projects in other communities for 25 years for the same reason. They have to make, each case is sui generis. It stands on its own. Has to make the case, and although we try to stay within the normal pattern, to be fair, the pilots will vary based upon the case they make or the developer makes in terms of what can be viable for them to do the project.
How often do you make that exception?
Sorry, Mr. Perola.
No, please.
The norm the past 5 years has been roughly 20 to 25-year pilots, and I've seen up to 30 granted by the board for projects of this magnitude. Normally with a building that is there already that's just being gutted with internal modifications, I've seen 15 to 20, but normally with demolition and a new building, I've seen them go up to 30.
Much of the argument from, if you put yourself in the developer's shoes, not that you want to, they have to make a case. And there's a report, it's filed online, the Common Report can be read.
the cost-benefit analysis.
The cost-benefit analysis can be read, and you can make an argument against it, what have you, and submit something that you feel may not be right. But unlike some IDAs, we do take into consideration the impact on the school district, especially in unincorporated hamlets. And in this
Yeah, 'cause
case,
you're the only ones who can control what happens in there.
yeah, that's the board's determination in terms of what decision they make. But they do try to reflect a balance. some IDAs will cut taxes in half in Suffolk. In Nassau, we don't. We've always tried to put a base down so that there is money generated for the local school district, et cetera. So,
It's just very upsetting. We
No,
all
I
pay high
understand.
taxes.
I understand your
It's a
frustration.
big concern, particularly as we know that prices never go down. So, thank you.
Thank you.
sure.
Amy Heyman, Baldwin resident. I'm just curious, do you know of the other towns that got the 25-year abatement? Are there, I'd like, if you have a record of
I have a-
particular towns.
Island
'cause
Park is
I
one.
feel that some towns, like the other resident was saying, you know, I don't think that this would happen in, north of the tree line, okay? I've lived in Baldwin my whole life, and I feel that we just aren't listened to.
We've,
So I am curious to see what towns got the
Rockville Center,
25-year.
Island Park, two right off the top of my head.
Rockville Center, I find that
The Avalon
curious.
project. The big, it's in 3 stages, Avalon in Rockville Center.
Oh, and that got a lot of opposition. I worked at
did.
the Rockville Center
It
Public Library.
got my
and
brains kicked in.
We have binders of this about the Avalon project.
Yes.
That did not, you know, go down so easily.
But-
I worked in Rockville Center
But
for 15
interestingly enough, the main argument was against, the same as here, the pilot affecting the school district. And it really has not. Few years in each year, perhaps, but minimally.
But their residents oftentimes are hedge fund managers, and they're able to afford the $25,000 a year taxes. People in Baldwin are not. I mean, my taxes, you know, I improved my home. What did I get? A bigger tax bill. So I
Unfortunately, yeah.
oppose this 25-year.
I understand.
You know, I'm also concerned that, you know, all these apartments, like my fellow neighbors said, are going up in a very small area. We need businesses. We don't need more people.
Well,
We need restaurants, businesses.
remember-
Give them the taxes. And also, there's a lot of apartment complexes in Baldwin that should be renovated. Do they get any assistance? My mother lives on Carlton Place, across the street from Lieback Apartments. She has rats running in her yard. Why can't we fix up the apartments that are already there? Why are we building more?
Well, this is private
No.
development.
But
They should get
that's the thing, the developers, they want to make a quick buck, and the developers are always in the politicians' pocket. I've lived here my whole life. My parents lived here, my grandparents, my great-parents. It's always been the developers who have, you know, but they live in Brookville and Smithtown, you know? So we're here to defend Baldwin, and I just don't understand the 25-year tax abatement. I'm sorry.
I understand.
You know. Thank you.
thank you.
Remember, the folks that, and this is market rate housing, so this is not going to be cheap. And understand those folks gonna be going to the railroad, but they're also shopping locally on weekends.
They're rentals, they're not sales.
Well, it's rentals, it's not ownership. Yep. Ma'am,
So
wait,
you
ma'am,
mentioned,
ma'am,
of course,
excuse me.
sorry.
Tell the
Oh,
stenographer who your name,
Oh,
please.
Michelle Oder, I'm still the same person I was when I stood up.
But
20 minutes
the
ago.
tape won't know that.
So you mentioned the cost-benefit analysis, so let's go back to all of the items that you have on your IDA website. You have the application, you have the draft pilot, you have the abstract, you have the induction, the resolution, and you have the cost-benefit analysis. The cost-benefit analysis, I believe, was done in either 2022 or 23. All of those papers were originally with the original developer, G2D.
Can I just
and
stop you for
Gregory-
one moment?
Sure, yeah.
The cost benefit was done January of '25.
No, it wasn't. Read it, that's the new date when the new buyer took it over. But if you read it, it will tell you that it was done in 2020.
Yes, originally it was done for the initial applicant, and then it was redone for the new applicant, correct?
That is not what the document says. The document
Bless you.
says that it was done in 2023, and you and I can sit down one day and I'll sit there, read it with you line by line. Every single document, when you compare the original application, go on, and you and I have had conversations about this. You know who I am. We've talked on the phone many times, right?
Yes.
So let's look at the application, let's look at the G2G, and let's look at JAEP. And if you print them, which I have, and looked at them side by side, they're exactly the same. We've replaced the name, and we replaced the date. So yes, you see January 2025, but if you read the study, it says that that study was done in 2023. So if anybody wants to know how to find the 3OH IDA website, what I'm talking about, I'll be happy to show you. Okay, so that's fine. I understand that projects get taken over, a new company has stepped into the footprint, but let's take a look at is the cost-benefit analysis the same now? Price of building has gone up, price of materials have gone up. Is it still the same in 2025? If that was actually started today, is the cost-benefit analysis exactly the same as it was when it was done in 2023? Okay, let's talk about two other things. Let's talk about the environment. There have been 3 major water main breaks in Baldwin in the last year. The last one was in February, across the street from where this project is going. What did Liberty Water have to say about that? They contacted the town of Hempstead and they said that, and this is basically a quote, don't totally quote me, the infrastructure of Baldwin is crumbling, that Baldwin cannot handle what is going on in Baldwin. The town of Hempstead said, well, that's not our problem, we're not in charge of the water. But we had a water main break up by Seaman Avenue that affected, I believe it was 30,000 homes. We were out of water, people up there were out of water. They had sewage in their basements. And then 2 months later, we had another water main break. We just had a water main break in February. My house, I had no water for half the day, and for the rest of the week, I had yellow water. So tell me that these studies that were done 2, 3, maybe 4 years ago are applicable today. How about the fact that in Baldwin, the town of Hempstead spent millions and millions of dollars reconfiguring Grand Avenue? I was told that there is a 5-year moratorium on doing any construction that would involve ripping up a sewer, ripping up the sidewalk, doing anything that would affect the street, and here we are. Right now, there are trucks digging up right in front of the funeral home, shutting off the gas, shutting off the electric. They're gonna rip up the sewer, they're gonna rip up the street. So our millions of dollars in tax money that went to reconfigure Grand Avenue is now gonna get ripped up? What happened to the 5-year moratorium? But let's give the developers, the only people who win in a pilot and the only people who win in an IDA are the developers. The big losers are all the people sitting here and all the people who are going to hear this if they happen to listen it on the live stream. So you and I want to sit down and look at that together. It wasn't done in January 2025, it was done in 2023.
Correct, it was amended in 25, correct.
Did anyone think it was changed? That was amended.
Would anyone else like to be heard? Okay. We are observing that, you want to say anything?
No.
We are observing it is 10:19 a.m. and we are closing this public hearing for JAEP Properties LLC Sinadai. Thank you everyone very much for your comments.